I never imagined a sleepy suburban lane could erupt into a battleground until the morning HOA Karen marched up my drive and made the most ridiculous demand I'd ever heard. Picture it, a bright Saturday, sunlight bouncing off my perfectly polished 1967 Mustang. I was mid-sip of coffee when heavy, determined footsteps announced her arrival. HOA Karen, the neighborhood's self-appointed enforcer, came stomping up like she owned the block. Then, without a hint of shame, she declared it plainly, as if it were common sense. "Give my son your car." "He deserves it." For a beat, I just stared. Did she really say that? My Mustang, a labor of love I'd rebuilt and cared for across 2 decades, suddenly became deserved by her entitled child. Her tone left no room for debate. When I refused, she escalated. She called the cops. Yep. She phoned law enforcement over a vehicle she had zero legal claim to. Sirens were faint at first, then grew louder. I didn't freak out. I had an ace she didn't know about. A few months earlier, I'd tangled with the HOA over property issues and had spoken to the state attorney. They'd assured me my ownership was solid. Still, I kept my cool. Whole Karen thrived on bluster, on intimidation. That was how she carved out power, by scaring folks and bending rules to her will. When the officers arrived, Karen threw herself into the role of injured party, arms flailing, insisting my refusal amounted to a crime. The cops listened politely and then turned to me. Calmly, I explained the car was mine, hand restored, not subject to some imagined HOA claim. I even told them the state attorney had verified my title. I watched their expressions change. Karen's theatrics didn't fool professionals who knew the law. Undeterred, she tried another tack, muttering about nebulous HOA regulations that might give her some leverage. That's when I realized this had morphed into more than a silly demand. It was a full-on battle of wills. If I wanted to keep that Mustang, I'd need to be sharper than her, steadier under pressure, and ready for whatever absurdity she threw next. By the time the officers left, I knew one thing for sure. HOA Karen didn't know who she'd picked a fight with. And whatever I planned next would flip the script. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Karen wasn't someone who accepted defeat gracefully. If anything, being rebuffed only pumped up her ego. By Monday, she was back, notebook in hand, hunting for supposed violations like a bloodhound. From my porch, I watched her scribble furiously, muttering about how wrong it was that my Mustang remained in my driveway. She strutted over with that same overconfident swagger, acting as though her interpretation of the rules carried legal weight. "You don't understand," she said, leaning in like she was delivering gospel. "My son needs that car. The HOA rules say it's open for community consideration." I bit down a sarcastic retort. I knew a single slip could be used against me. And instead answered calmly, "Karen, the state attorney confirmed this car is mine. There's nothing in the HOA rules that changes that." Her face flushed, not with anger so much as shock. People like her can't accept situations where their power evaporates. Then she did something I hadn't expected. She called an emergency HOA meeting, trying to drag the whole neighborhood into her personal crusade. As she barked into the phone, I realized she intended to weaponize the community against me. This had ceased to be merely about a car. It was about protecting my rights and stopping an HOA spectacle. I phoned my contact at the state attorney's office and explained the harassment. Within hours, I had confirmation. Any attempt by Karen or the HOA to seize or claim the Mustang would be illegal. Confidence surged through me. With legal backing on record, I was ready to confront the situation head-on. Later that afternoon, Karen returned, this time flanked by her son, wide-eyed and oblivious to the chaos his mother had caused. Pointing at the Mustang, she proclaimed, "This car is perfect for him. You will give it to him." I laughed, careful to show amusement rather than fear. "You do realize demanding it like that could get you in real legal trouble, right?" I said evenly. Her jaw dropped. The boy looked confused. Karen doubled down, waving her arms and threatening civil suits and more authorities. That was when I decided to stop playing defense and start letting her dig her own grave, all while the state attorney watched every move. Her arrogance was a weapon I could turn against her, and I intended to. By midweek, HOA Karen's obsession with my Mustang had reached a level I hadn't expected. She wasn't just pestering the HOA or dialing the cops anymore. Now Karen had shifted gears, spreading rumors across the neighborhood, whispering that I was hiding something illegal in the community's car. It was like watching a chess player map out every move, except she couldn't see the irony that her arrogance was setting up her own checkmate. That morning, I decided to take the Mustang out for a spin, pulling onto a scenic street where the sun hit the chrome just right. I parked, stepped back to admire the shine, and sure enough, like clockwork, Karen materialized within minutes. She stormed up with fire in her eyes, clutching a thick stack of papers. Supposed HOA claims she believed gave her authority. She slapped the pile onto my hood and barked, "You've ignored every warning. This is your final chance to hand over the car before I escalate." I leaned casually against the Mustang, calm smile steady. "Karen," I said evenly, "I've already spoken with the state attorney. Any attempt to take this car or even involve the HOA will be treated as harassment. You need to stop." Her face contorted, a cocktail of disbelief and rage, as if the idea of someone standing tall against her tyranny simply didn't compute. Her next move? Threatened to call the cops again, claiming my refusal was criminal. I noticed her son lingering nearby, lips twitching with the faintest smirk. He knew this was spiraling into nonsense, though he couldn't grasp just how deep the stakes ran. That's when I pulled out my trump card. "Go ahead," I said, sliding a document from my folder. "I've documented everything. Every phone call, every false claim, every threat. This letter is from the state attorney's office. The authorities are aware of your harassment, and if you keep this up, you'll be facing serious consequences." Karen opened her mouth, then closed it again, words lost. For the first time, the weight of actual law crushed her theatrics. The Mustang gleamed between us. Not just a car anymore, but a symbol, proof that preparation, patience, and resolve could topple even the loudest bully. She tried raising her voice, but the panic cracked through her tone. Her threats bounced off me like pebbles against steel. By the time that confrontation ended, her bluster had become laughable. She wasn't the terrifying enforcer of rules anymore. She was just noise running out of steam. But I knew better than to underestimate her completely. Stubbornness like hers doesn't vanish overnight. If I wanted this circus ended once and for all, the final move had to leave no room for her to slither back. Sure enough, the following weekend she staged her grand finale. She'd spent the week prowling the block, whispering into ears, spinning her narrative. By then, the air itself felt tense, like everyone was waiting for the explosion. And right on cue, she stormed onto my property again, dragging her son behind her, practically shoving him forward as if his presence gave her legitimacy. "This is it," she announced, throwing her arms in the air. "You will hand over that car before I escalate to the highest level." She screamed loud enough for neighbors to come out onto their porches, hoping for an audience to validate her madness. Her son's cheeks burned red with embarrassment, but she was too wrapped up in her crusade to notice. I stepped forward calmly, holding a thick folder filled with neatly organized evidence. "Karen," I said clearly so everyone could hear, "your threats are baseless. Every single one of them has been documented. The state attorney has reviewed this case and confirmed my legal ownership of this car. If you continue, your harassment will have real legal consequences." The blood drained from her face. For the first time, hesitation crept in, cracking her armor of entitlement. Around us, neighbors exchanged glances, some whispering, some shaking their heads, a few nodding in support of me. Karen opened her mouth to retort, but the words fell flat. She had no counter. Predictably, she grabbed her phone. "I'll call the police," she shouted. I didn't flinch. "Do it," I said with a small smile. "I've already informed them of your harassment. Every false claim you make is recorded. You're out of moves." Her hand shook as she dialed, realizing too late she'd walked into her own trap. Minutes later, the squad car rolled up. But instead of siding with her, the officers calmly instructed her to stop harassing me. Her argument crumbled in front of the entire neighborhood. Theatrics met reality, and reality won. Finally, with nothing left, she stomped away, muttering weak threats, her son trailing silently behind, face red with humiliation. I leaned back against the Mustang, feeling the last of the weight lift. The car sparkled under the afternoon sun, untouched, untouchable, and now more than a vehicle. It was proof that entitlement, no matter how loud, can't override preparation, patience, and the law. HOA. Karen had learned the hard way. No HOA rule, no amount of yelling, no intimidation tactic could take away what wasn't hers. That day, I realized something important. Sometimes standing your ground with the right planning is all it takes to stop a bully cold. And as for HOA Karen, well, let's just say she won't be marching up my driveway anytime soon. Wow, can you believe just how far she went? If you enjoyed this wild ride, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next crazy neighborhood story. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you do if someone tried to take your car? Ever faced a wild HOA drama yourself? And don't forget to like the video if you want even more jaw-dropping stories. Trust me, the next one is even wilder.